Hello, everybody. We're going to take a look at everyone's assignment for today. These are the ones that I have in on time. So, as a reminder for anyone watching the recording, it's due on Tuesday at midnight. Some of you guys are a little bit into the morning, but since it's before the meeting, whatever. But yeah, make a note that it's due on Tuesday, not Wednesday from now on. I do want to point out for a couple assignments down the line, in our examples folder, I have some rigs that you guys can grab. So examples, rigs, and then I've got 3D rigs up here. I've got 3 characters, Goon, Moom, and Beefy. And then this one up here is just the entire freely available Goon, and it's got lots and lots of stuff in here, as well as a few alternatives that I created from the base. So you don't need this big folder unless you really want to go look through all of the available scripts and stuff. But these 3 are nice, simple, full body rigs that don't have a whole lot of features, so they're kind of easy to use. And in a couple assignments down the line, we're going to use them to learn about posing full 3D characters and also for performing at least a walk cycle as a part of our transitioning from 2D to 3D. So it'd be a good idea to grab these 3 and open them up and take a look at them. Try not to break them. I guess if you do, just come get a new copy from up here or save a different version so that you can replace it. But they're worthwhile. I have turned off some features that they have. So if you explore enough, you can probably find them. And I've hidden some things that were broken, particularly on Goon. Some of the controllers were just kind of broken, so I just removed them. And Beefy also had a rendering issue that I think I solved, but we'll see. Moom is also bizarre, so I don't think Moom is broken at all, but he's just kind of weird, but he's a fun one. So there you go, just a little bit of information about stuff that's coming up. Let's go ahead and take a look at your guys' work. So I've got my project open here and all the Unity package downloaded, so I'm going to just drag them in one by one. We'll take a look. So here is Devin's. We've got B animations and his controller right there, and a prefab even. So very good. Let's import, and we'll take a look at the prefab just by double clicking here. Got to go to the scene view for that. Selecting, and yep, he's attached his controller too. So that's good. So that means I should be able to see, where's my animator? What's down here? Oh, I moved it because I was recording, that's right. So we should be able to see, there we go, all of the animation clips cascading down, which is great because that's ready to be hooked up for this week's assignment. And then we can preview all of these animations. There we go. Let me make this a little bigger.
For a split second, I thought you were doing mine, but that's not mine.
Yeah, same character, right?
Yeah, same character.
Cool. So yeah, we've got some nice subtle animation. One thing we want to think about when we're animating is how far away is the camera going to be when we watch our animation. And so keep in mind, like if this was Night in the Woods is pretty close up actually. Like this, we can see all the nice ambient motion. But if it were more of a platformer game like way back here, then we're probably going to miss most of the subtle movement. That's more of just a note than like something that's wrong. It's not wrong. You know, you did a fine job, but I just wanted to.
I overdid the idle animation now.
You might have, I mean, it depends on the game, right? Like a fighting game is very, very frantic. And so those characters' idols are really active. But in like a talking heads kind of game where you've got like dialogue trees all the time, they're typically pretty sedate. I love the fact that you included some blink on there. It's great. Cigarette attached is pretty cool. Gunter, did you try to make this glow?
No.
I was wondering if anyone would like try to make it glow because it's not evident that that's something that could happen, but it would be a cool addition. So it's cool. All right, let's take a look at some of the others. Let's see our run cycle. It's always a good one. It's got almost like panting, like the cigarette smoking has taken a toll, which is kind of a funny thing. Cool. All right, I like it. And let's see our jumping up. don't know why it looked really bizarre for a second before I hit play, but then it resolved itself. That looks good. It might be a little bit too slow to see all of this, so you might have to speed it up right from this to that almost immediately, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays back. We've got Midair. And the cigarette flopping around, okay. Down. Great. I think those will work. And then landed. Cool. Okay, so let me see from midair. So midair to down, you might end up getting a weird thing that happens because you've reversed the arms. So the arms were both down this way, and now they're both up. Hopefully how they transition is to do, if I can zoom in, is to do something like this, right? But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they take like this route for some reason, or like all the bones curl up in the middle of the transition like this, and then uncurl again. So watch out for that transition, and what's going on if it happens the wrong way would just be that the values need to be changed, or you need to have like a single frame at the very beginning of a like halfway position and then let it transition, but that makes the playback kind of difficult. So occasionally that sort of thing can happen, but wait to see when you try to transition your animations if it occurs. All right, great. Very good job. Thank you. Let's take a look at the next one. Yang. All right, so we got your animations and controller, sprites, friction material, prefabs, and then some of the scripts that I already have. So see what it does when you try to import things that already exist in the assignment. Then it unchecks this stuff for you because it detects, oh, you've already got that stuff. I don't need to import it for you. So it's not really a danger to include it in your package if you know that it's going to like the same project folder structure with the same names and everything. So I can just hit import without changing anything. It should be fine. Okay. So, okay, wait. What'd you name your guy? Oh, this one. There we go. Okay. We got Germ, I think is his name. And let's try idle. Cool. Boy, he's got long arms, doesn't he?
Yeah, they're pretty long.
Cool. Okay. That seems nice and subtle. He looks really bored, too. Oh, you've got a walk and a run, huh?
Yeah, I don't know why I include the walk. I thought we were supposed to do the walk. But
You
I
can.
it's not.
So what you'll be able to do if you want to utilize that is in your transition between standing still and moving, you'll just include this as a sort of intermediary step. So the threshold for standing still is obviously 0, and the run can be like the maximum speed of the character. But if you want walk in there, you could put it at like 2 or 3, and then it will transition from one cycle to the other. And sometimes it's really nice. Okay. One thing I would watch out for is you got this arm floating way out in front of the character here, and I would just make sure that stays back behind the chest. But it looks like right now it's like rendering in front of the chest, so it's the draw order for that. If I take a look at where so that's the right arm. There's the left arm. So this draw order probably needs to be lower. So something like here. Let's see if that works. Oh, even further? So what's the draw order of your chest? Ah, okay, so your chest is at 70, and this arm needs to be behind it. It's got to be lower than 70. So I almost made it. There we go. So somewhere around like 60, this arm can be behind the other arm and leg. Like see that the hand and sleeve are still in front of this leg. So watch out for the draw order, because that's one thing I could see that is not working very nicely right now, because you've got them floating.
Yeah, I messed up really bad in that.
Okay. Well, it's not too hard to fix, really. All you got to do is slide this back behind and then fix the draw order, and basically everything else is good. You don't even have to get rid of your animation for it, because if you can use the curves properly, then you should be able to offset the position. So with this bone number 1 on left arm, we just find that in here. Where's your left arm? So I've got it selected right now. So you might need to rename your bones because in the animation editor they all look the same. Did you have trouble figuring out, like, down here what's what?
No, I was just clicking in the hierarchy on the top one.
Over
You know,
here?
the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that works, but right now I'm looking for a keyframe. And so I've got the object selected, but it's nowhere to be found down here. Or did it just grab this automatically? Oh, it did. I just didn't notice that it highlights. No, it didn't. I don't know. It's just grabbing it like randomly. So anyway, now that I've got, where did it go? Uh-oh, now I've lost it again. Okay. Left arm, bone 1. See, it's not highlighting in the animator. Unless I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it does.
It does. Wait, no, so now I've reselected it and it's not the right one anymore. So no, it doesn't. I feel like I'm going crazy, like trying to figure this out. So this one is the leg, hips. This one is the leg. This one is the torso. This one's the arm. Okay, finally found it. So there's the bone position. Now I go to the curves, hit F to frame, and what we're looking to move, I believe, is X. So if I just grab this whole line and then move it, okay, no, it's going to be Y now that I see it highlighted. So if I just grab this whole line, then I should be able to, no, it was X. It's not local. Okay. I should be able to slide the whole thing like there. And now if we play back, all your animation should be exactly the same, just that that position's been changed. So then we just have to change the draw order. But don't change the draw order if you're in your animator, because then it will record that. So if I were to grab this sprite and the animator is still open, and then I change this, see how it turned pink? It just put a keyframe on that. And so we don't want that to happen. So instead, let me undo. Stop previewing, then change the sprite order, and like it looks like it's still here. I guess I could remove it. Just remove that property. There we go. So now I could change the order. Oh, look, it's behind now. Okay, you know what? I think I know what happened. You probably set it correctly initially, because right now it's at 69, which is one behind 70, right? It's displaying correctly.
Yeah.
But if I preview your walk, it was popping in front because you had changed it in animation mode and there was a keyframe on it. That's what happened. So now, look, it's fine. It's behind the torso. So
yeah, because when I was doing the animation, that didn't happen to me. So I must have moved something with that.
What you want to do is look in the animator in the list, and if you see a sprite renderer attribute like this one, this is a keyframe on that object. So it's saying, I'm changing this order during the animation. And in order to stop doing that, all you got to do is right click and remove property, and now it will no longer change the order during the animation. So right here, this is one, and it was just those three. Okay?
Okay.
Does that help? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try your run. Okay. You could get a little bit of hip motion in there. What I did during mine was kind of moved the hip forward and backward as there's rotation. So yours is a little bit more stiff than that, but it's still going to work for this character. I would also bend the arms a bit more. So right now, the way you're animating the arms, they're kind of locked at this 90-degree bend in the elbow, and they're not unfolding or refolding, and that's normally something that happens during a run or during any kind of dynamic arm motion. Take this one for instance. Let's start, here's at the front. When it starts to travel back, what's normally going to happen is the arm is going to fold up more. So it's going to, and I'll just get a little bit round here, but it's going to fold up more like this on the way back, right? Now I'm not recording that, so this is what you've got. It's just kind of like stiff. Then back here at the extent, it's going to unfold a bit, so it'll probably look similar to how it does now. But on the way forward, it's going to be very straight because it's sort of fighting against this inertia that all of this muscle has, and so it's going to kind of open up. So typically you've got opener arms, more straight arms, on the way forward, and then they close up rapidly at the end, and they fold up just a little bit more on the way back, and that will create a sort of more dynamic look. So I'm just going to really quickly just fold them here, unfold them a little here, and then unfold them a lot here, just to show you what the difference will look like. Okay, so let's hit. See how it creates a slightly more interesting motion?
Yeah, he doesn't look so stiff.
So in addition to that, we could be moving the shoulder to give it a little bit of sensation that he's kind of like rotating his torso a little bit. Not a whole lot, because of course we don't want it to look like he's fully twisting or anything like that. So in the back, it's usually that the shoulder would have rotated back towards the rear. So I would leave it here. But in the front, it'd be likely that this would rotate forward like that. So I'd have to match that position exactly for it to play back exactly, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to make it basic like that. And then here, I'm going to move it back. And now let's try to play that back. See, it's just a little bit of extra. Is that moving properly? I guess I could move it further. Go back to here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay. So it's just a little bit stiff right now. I want to loosen that stuff up a bit. All right, let's take a look at your jump up. That'll work. I would say just copy this keyframe to some position down the timeline. So as I'm zooming out here, look at the time frame up here. We're not even to 1 second until I go all the way to here. I would just copy and paste so that we've got 1 second's worth, just in case there's any blending that needs to happen. It tends to help just a tiny bit. And then midair. Okay, that one could really use some actual motion though. And then jump down. Okay, well what's going to happen with your hat, I hope that it's going to blend right, but since the hat's going off the head, it's going to have to blend with its position in the midair one. And then it will just kind of stick up in the air. I think it will work properly, but since you're doing that with the hat for the down position here, what you might want to do is have ambient motion here where the hat sort of taps into the head over and over and over. That way it's sort of like it's flying off his head, but it's not like just hovering above his head. It may look fine in the playback, like when we use the character controller, but I'm not so sure. I would watch out for that one. And then, do you have a landing? Jump up, down, midair. No landing?
No, I don't.
Okay. I don't remember if I required it or not, but it's a good idea. Let me see. Did I require it? No, I'm wondering.
Because on the
Optional.
canvas, you have idle, run, jump up, midair, and down. Those are the only ones.
Yeah, these are just optional. But it's a really good idea. Like, it's not going to look as good without the landing, but not having one is not going to like impact your grade or anything.
Yeah, I didn't know because I ran out of time.
Okay. All right, man. Any questions?
No, I think you covered everything that I need to fix the character.
Okay.
Things that I missed.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Miguel,
Yes, sir.
let's take a look. We got prefab. We got animations, PNG. Excellent. Let's get it all in. All right. This guy, old cat.
I made a lot of the same mistakes as Yang again.
Okay. We'll take a look then. Oh, wow. That's an idol. So that's almost like, in a game when you don't touch the controller for a little bit, and then sometimes they have the character like get bored and perform some other action. This is like that action.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it's cool, and it's nice to see. It probably won't work with sudden starting and stopping, though. For that, you need something a lot more subtle, where the character's just kind of standing there, which seems stiff and boring, but then if you cycle into this, it's a lot more fun. So I'm trying to think, like, can you utilize this in the character controller based on the variables I give you? I think you can. If you had like a boring idle in addition to this, then I think in the character controller you could make a transition based on like the number of times the thing loops. Let me see real quick. I'm just kind of spitballing an idea here. So if the exit time is more than 1, I think we set a number of cycles. So if I say the exit time is like 3, yeah, that worked. Okay. So if you do end up making a boring idle, right, you could set a transition to a secondary state after like 3 cycles or so, and then it exits to this one, but then both of them would need a transition to jump from there. Otherwise, you might get stuck here forever. But it's kind of an interesting thought. Like, I have never really done something like this, like a boredom idle, but it's kind of a cool thing to be able to, then you could have that one play for as many transitions as you'd want, and then go back to idle if you wanted by setting this exit time to however many. So since it's longer, probably less, but yeah. Cool. Does that make sense to you? I'm not sure if I'm like blithering or not.
No, yeah, totally. I missed the point of what our idle was supposed to be. This is just what I thought because of the word idle.
No, yeah, I get it. And this is kind of like more work and more practice, so that's kind of cool. I'm trying to think, like, if you wanted to really quickly make a boring idle out of this, you could. What could you do? Could you make it? Because you're rocking back and forth on the feet, which is the problem, I think. I think you just start from this first pose, copy and paste it down the line, and instead of having his body going so much, just have it very, very slightly rocking. You might be able to like reduce the amount or something. But anyway, you can still use this in the assignment. It's just going to kind of play back weird. Let's do the run cycle. Okay. Something weird about the cadence.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing.
Okay, let me ask you about your working method. When you first start posing this, did you start with this pose, like pose on frame 0 or frame 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Then, did you pose like this one right here? Or this one right here?
What I did was I started with just the legs.
Yeah.
And I did those in that order, yeah.
Okay, so legs here, then apart, then kind of together, then apart, and then together again. Okay. So if
what I think the problem was is I didn't sync the arms and legs up well.
So I'm going to do this. Okay. Yep, that makes sense. And then if we look at the arms, so the arms are like apart and then together. Oh, they're doing like the oh, that's it. Okay. They're doing the opposite thing that the legs are doing, but not at the right time. Okay. So here on frame 1, your legs are together, but your arms are apart. If your legs are together, your arms are together. If your legs are apart, your arms are apart. That's what should be happening.
Oh, you're right.
So it's like they're offset. That's what made it look so weird. So then here they're together, and these are together, although what you're doing here is posing the this arm forward, this arm back pose, right? So that would be take it and move it. And this one, you can actually move this back one a lot more than you think you can. Even though his body isn't rotating, it doesn't make any sense. To be able to see it kind of like break clear of his body is more important. So you can do like,
that looks right.
You can do all the way like this and still get away with it. This one becomes kind of an issue, but you can kind of get away with it. Okay, so yeah, they're just offset. That's all. So wherever the pose is, they kind of need to be moved to the previous one, I think it is. or move to the next one. Yeah, so
Okay.
the
Yeah.
arm poses need
That
to
was
move.
bothering me the whole time too.
Yes. And we haven't like covered any sort of like basic animation formulas or anything. So you're kind of just taking your best guess at this point. But there are walk and run formulas. Let me type this in: animation walk cycle. So if you look up just image animation walk cycle or run cycle or whatever, you can find some formulas from various books like this. I'm going to provide one when we do our 3D animation from Animator Survival Kit right here. But this sort of helps to keep everything organized and focused, is to use a formula like this. And so there's actually like official names for all these poses and everything. Yeah. But I felt that with this 2D character, you guys could just sort of wing it and see what you get. So. Okay, let's do jump up. Cool. It might end up being a little slow at the push off, but other than that, I think it's going to work fine. If it does end up being too slow, all you got to do is grab all of these keys and then slide everything back. 5 frames is a lot of time for a push off, so it might even be less than that. So it might be something like that. Also, since it's traveling upward, it's probably going to work properly, but like I state in the video, it'd kind of be good to have 2 separate clips, one which is just this as a transition, and then another which is just this, so that the animation blending can work properly. But I think it'll work properly in this case. So it's like literally that fast just because of how fast the physics happens. Then we've got midair. Cool. See with it, jump up one more time. Jump up. Okay. So you're not really rotating the body very much, huh?
No.
It's a good idea a little bit, like at least upper body. I know that doing the hips would probably be pretty weird because the entire guy moves. But I find that on a jump, having a little bit of forward lean followed by backward lean tends to accentuate the motion just a bit more. And since a lot of the time you're going to be running and jumping anyway, it would make sense. It is the kind of thing we can drive with code, though. We could tell code, if you are jumping and in motion, tilt by the amount of velocity you have, which is kind of cool. But sometimes it's the animator. Okay, so then midair. So that one, this one kind of needs to cycle. So you've got it transitioning from this to that, but it should really kind of just like wobble like this. So I would recommend, I think I would recommend like copying this first frame and pasting it at the end. So this would be a 1 second cycling animation. So now he's kind of like flapping his arms. I don't know if you saw in the video, when I wanted to reduce this kind of motion, it's actually really easy. You just pick like a position like here and then add a key. And so now we could just replace that with this and have this much motion instead of this much motion. So it's very, very cheaty, but I love it as a trick. So I'm going to go to the end frame, paste, go to frame 1, paste, and then delete it here. And so now I've got half the amount of motion. And you can do that.
I actually utilized that somewhere.
I love that trick. I love it in 3D. I love it in 2D. It's a really nice way to kind of get an automatic in-between pose, especially if you do it just for certain body parts. It can be really helpful. I'm glad that helped. Then down. That's great. I'd love to see his like ears twitching or something, and you have all that beard hair. Like, I'd love you to animate that, but that's really good. Flailing arms.
I really wanted to.
And then is that it? No landing or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay.
I just took so long on these, I didn't have time. I wanted to do the optionals just because it seems.
Well, good news. This week's, I think, is kind of easy. The video is the shortest I've ever made, and it's really straightforward. As long as nothing major trips you up, you might have time this week to accentuate animations if you wanted to. But wait and see how it goes. That's fun.
I can always edit them after we have the animator set up, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All those are is references. So everything in here is referencing the clip, and if you change what's in the clip, then it's already updated.
All right, cool.
Yep. All right, very good. Any questions or anything before I move on?
Nope, think you got it all.
Very good, thank you. All right, these are looking good. Gunter, you're next. Cool, we got our clips. I'm not seeing enough. Oh wait, here they are. Okay, so your contents, Gunter, are a little bit out of order. The idle and run cycle are over in prefabs.
Yeah, that was a mistake. I don't know how that happened, so I'm very sorry.
Just rearrange them, by next time. That's all.
But how do I rearrange them without causing problems?
It won't. Everything in Unity is I should have imported it to demonstrate. Sorry. Everything in Unity is a reference. So if you move its position, then anything using it updates its information. So we're in prefabs right now, and here's your idle and your run. So I'm just going to grab both of those and then drag them to the animation folder. And now everything will just work. It'll just,
Okay.
yeah.
It
So
didn't used to work like that. Sometimes when I try to move things, it just breaks.
do you cut, paste, or do you just drag like I just did?
I don't know. I was talking about the past.
There's also a difference between doing it in the Unity editor and doing it in the folders that they represent on your computer. You should always do it within the Unity editor if you can,
Okay.
because then it updates things properly. All right, so here we go. There's the character.
What happened to my character's iris?
I'm not sure, but when we preview your animations, it'll probably come back. That's a good question. I don't know what happened to the character's iris.
That's not normal.
Okay, let's take a look. So here's the head. Here's the iris. It's there. Its order is 5.
Shouldn't it be 6?
The head is 6.
Or
And the lid is 8. So it might just be that these two are reversed.
check.
Oh wait, no, the head is supposed to be 6 because it's the yellow part, right?
No, the yellow part is the eye.
Is this part. Okay, so that's 5. Iris is 5 also.
Okay, somehow that got changed.
There we go. So now it's 6. But did I just animate that by accident? It doesn't look like I did, because I'm just in preview. So now it's in 6. Let's see if we play back. Okay, it's working now. But, oh, I put it too far forward. Yeah. So there's the possibility that one of your animations has the correct position for the eye, and since none of the other ones do, once that one plays, it's changed, and then it never changes back because it's got no reason to. So let's go look through them and see. So far it looks like it's not animated, so that's fine. Are you really moving the iris as much as that?
Yes.
Okay, don't. So the iris is really just going to move from position to position within the eye, but angling it like that is going to be very distracting.
I was trying to just put some character, so...
Well, it's just kind of not how an eye works, though. Like, the way an eye works is to dart from place to place and hold, and dart and dart and dart, like that. It's very quick little punctuated movements that hold in their position. They don't really twist. They do track, right? But what is it tracking is what you want to think about. This is just a basic animation for your whole character, and they're not going to necessarily be looking at anything in particular when they're performing this walk action or this run action over and over, right? So you want to save that for something special. Like if they picked up an object in their hand, then yeah, you want to maybe track that with the eyes. Okay. What's going on with the nose?
Oh, it's wiggling.
Oh, so it's got just like a little bit of influence. I see. So it's wiggling. Okay. Is she like sniffing or like breathing heavy or something?
It's just a character trait.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
It's like her, you know how the,
Is it wobbling like from the motion of her head?
that and also like she's moving her nose like that. It just
Is it like her nose is itchy?
it's a tick,
Like a nervous tick that she can't control?
kind of.
Oh, poor girl. That's a really odd choice. It's a very tiny detail, and again, it's playing all the time, right? So it's playing during a walk, which means it's going to repeat, which is going to be probably overkill, you know? If you wanted something like that, and I think I did something like that in mine, like I twitched the ear, right? But I made sure that most of the time nothing is happening. And then every now and then it goes twitch, and then it goes back to doing nothing. That's kind of like a little attention grabbing idle flavor, right? But what you're doing looks like it's physically motivated. It looks like it's jiggling or she's breathing or something like that, like intentional. So there's kind of a difference between those details, you know?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to build some character. I
Right,
have a
but
section with making a character in my animation.
you keep saying character, but what I say is she breathing? That is character. Is she wiggling her nose? That is character. Is it wobbling because of the motion of her head? That is character. Just
Okay.
saying character doesn't mean anything, right? You got to think about what is happening. Are they trying to do something? Is it happening beyond their control? Those are things that reveal how the body works and how the mind works, which is ultimately what character is. It's their choosing to do things or their inability to choose things, right? So like, for instance, if these spikes on her head were wobbling as her head moved, then I would have to think either she's flexing them or they're like hair and she doesn't have any control over that, right? And in the sense of character, whether or not she has control over these head spikes and what she thinks about them begins to give us an insight into her, right? So maybe a character is running and jumping all over the place and the head spikes are flopping. And then occasionally, like when she's falling down, she puts a hand up on those head spikes and holds them steady so they don't go flying up into the air, right? Then we have one action motivated by a bunch of physical reactions and we've got a little bit of character. Same thing could be done with like the necklace. The necklace could flop all over the place, and then occasionally, like when she jumps and falls really far, she grabs hold of it so that it won't go flying away, right? Or it goes flopping up here on like the chain and falls down like the Scout in TF2.
I don't think that's a necklace. I think that's just a symbol on her shirt.
I don't know why, but I've been like fixated on the idea that it's a necklace, and you're right, I have no way of knowing that. They never refer to it in the game, but I just have this like head canon that that's what it is, and that we can't see the string, but yeah, it could just as easily be a logo on the shirt. Okay. But does all that make sense to you?
Yes.
Like the way she treats the cigarette is an opportunity for character. Does she let it dangle loose, or does she tightly, chomp onto it? So make sure it's always motivated by some real thing.
Okay.
So here's jump up. Cool. And same thing as I've told other people, the push off might interfere, it might not. I think it's probably going to be fine. You might, in your case, want to stretch out this second portion just a little bit longer. Just so that that's the part that's playing when it tries to transition and doesn't reset too fast. So you could just copy paste this section. Let me see what happens here. Yeah, just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay, so you could just copy paste this section, Control C, move your playhead over here, Control V, and then I'd try to just...
The 20 thing because I saw on the video.
What now?
I only stopped it at 20 because, or 0, 20.
Is that what I had on mine?
Yes.
Okay. It's a good idea to just have this longer, just in case.
Okay.
So. Midair. Oh my god. Okay, a bit much. I think it will probably play back fine, but I have no idea, and it's just a little much. It's like she's in a rock tumbler or something. Let's see, down. I'm interested to actually see how it transitions though, because it could play back pretty nicely. So there's the idle. The idle's really sedate by comparison. And then up, and then midair, and down. It's going to be a little hard for me to predict how this is going to play back, but we'll see. Okay. Do you have any questions or concerns?
What do you think of the idol?
Let me take a look one more time. I think it's really sedate. I think it's fine.
Okay.
And given that it's nice and slow, even though you're moving the arms quite a bit, it's probably not going to be distracting or anything. I will say down on your timeline, you've got kind of a bit of a mess happening because we've got lots of keyframes that are right next to others. In general, it's a good practice to try to stack this stuff up on the same frame. So you may have been trying to and just barely missing, because I can see that these attributes are not the same thing. What you can do to fix it is just grab one and drag it on top of the other, and now all that information is happening at the same time, and you won't get a conflict like you would in Maya. If you had something on the same frame, it'll just overwrite the other one. So just watch out for like right here where there's two. It makes it harder to edit your work after the fact and fix it up if there's something that needs to be adjusted. So just a technical thing, like right here, probably just stack all three of these like that. And I don't know if I messed something up by doing that, but hopefully not. Okay?
It's
Cool.
probably just so much because I was experimenting.
Mm-hmm. And it's always good to experiment. Very good. Thank you. All right, so we're going to take a look at Noah's. So Noah's got all his animations and then prefab. Very good. Import. Take a look. So the controller isn't hooked up right now. Let's see if it exists. So we want to search for Noah. This is why I had you guys name it with your name, because now I can just type in your name to see what has your name on it. Yeah, it looks like it does exist. Good. So I can just drag it onto here. So Noah, you're going to have to do that before you do this week's portion. Otherwise, you won't have an animator that works with the character. So now we should be able to play everything back. So there's the idle. One quick thing right away. The character dropped down immediately. Let me check. Oh, okay. I see why you did it. So the character's capsule collider is ending right down here. So here's where the ground would be. So the character would be floating. And so what Noah did in the animation is started at the correct place. So that's fine so long as that's consistent. I usually, outside the animation, take a look beforehand and try to line the characters up, feet up first. So that's the resting place. But your way will probably work too. So here's the idle. Looks fine to me. Nice and subtle. And wait a minute, that's it. That's all I got in this controller. So there were other animations, but I think they're not a part of the animation controller yet. So let's go in here. So I'm going to type in Noah again. Okay, wait, there aren't any animations. I thought there were, though. Were they just in a different place? I'm going to redrag the prefab package and just see. Okay, so we've got, oh, he's just got his last name. So I'll type in lab to find it all. And they are in the animations folder, so I'm going to hit cancel. Okay, so animations.
Maybe they're attached to that second controller he has.
Oh, he has a second controller? Oh, right here. No, this one has his name on it. I think that's the one I used. Oh, he's got two. Okay, so Noah, delete the wrong one. Keep the right one. I don't know which is which. Neither one were attached to the prefab, but I think the one I picked was wrong. So let's try the other. So it's going to be this one. And now let's see. Actually, I could just look. Yeah, this is the right one. Okay, so Noah, delete the wrong one. Don't leave junk in here. Make sure that you get it all set up nice. Let's take a look then. Idle's the same. And we've got run. Okay, run is probably not going to work. Mostly because we actually have to get the legs pumping back and forth, and they're sort of just shuffling in place right now. So for one thing, in your run animation, don't have the idle pose in its entirety. We're going to transition. So the idle will be the pose that it transitions from. What it needs to transition to is a run pose. So it needs to look like he's running right on frame one. Then the poses that you've got kind of need to follow the pattern of, if this leg is forward, this arm is back. Right? So if you think about how people run, and I actually have these cycles still up here. Let me type in run instead. Because walk is the same, but it's just less exaggerated. So this is a good just single image that when a leg is back, an arm is forward. When a leg is forward, an arm is back. It's called Contrapposto, sometimes when it's more subtle in figure drawing, or just the fact that you have to balance how your body is swinging. So we need that pose, like one of those. Okay, so you can kind of see examples of that. So that means on frame one, we would need to already be here. So probably just take this pose and move it to frame one. But we need to make sure that we clearly know what's going on in the pose. So I can see, I think this leg is the one that wants to be forward. So get it up there and really bend it. Something like that. And you may have to position it a little bit further inside the pelvis. When that's happening, what's happening with the other leg is that it's bent back like this. And then the arms are going to oppose that. So if this is the arm for this side, it needs to be forward and probably moved a bit. And then, like I was showing with another student, for this arm, you can actually move this pretty significantly back. And you want to try to break the silhouette in the back like that. So just take a look at that pose. It looks a bit weird because this arm is the exact same color as his body, but it's sort of starting to resemble running at least a little bit now. What I could do to fix that is this arm, there it is, we could change the color just a little bit. So in the sprite renderer, I'm going to change the color to be just a little bit darker. Oh, that one's behind. I'm sorry, I chose the wrong arm. So we would want to reverse that then. This would be the one that would be back. This would be the one that would be, this one would be the one that's forward. Like this. Okay, something like that. And then this one would have to have its sprite renderer changed. Okay, both your arms are behind your torso. So now I've tried both of them. Neither one worked. So you're going to have to change the draw order. Yeah, see? They're both behind the torso. Neither one is in front. So one of these at least has got to be in front. I think I picked the correct arm the first time, and it was just the draw order was incorrect. So let's go back to this one. Right arm. Darken it. And then, yeah, so the order right now is 0. It looks like maybe you just didn't change it at all. There. So now we're going to at least start to look like, I should probably place that back a little further and maybe open it up just a little bit more. So now he's going to start looking like he's running a bit more. Yeah, so it looks like you didn't change the order for a lot of things. The face has it. The arm does not. The leg does. The other leg does. So maybe just not the arms. It could just be one part that you forgot. Okay, so we need those kinds of more dynamic running poses, and we need the correct sorting order in order for this to start to work properly. Something that I would do, if I posed this myself and I saw how it looked, I would start to go, this guy, in order to run, is going to need this necktie area to be able to move. So I would make just a big avocado-shaped body, and I would illustrate this separately so that I could slide it forward and scale it as if his body was rotating. And that would give us a little bit more flexibility. That means going back to the sprite sheet, defining one more sprite, putting it into your rig, and then animating it with all of the different clips to solve that, which is kind of a pain, but is not really all that much. It's just one object. Okay. So there's just a little advice about that. Without that, it doesn't really feel like a run. With what you've got here, if I just went to the correct pose and I want a keyframe on everything so that we've recorded it, I have to right click and add key, but I can't because there's already one here. You can just go to one neighboring frame, like right here, and then add key on this gray bar, and it adds it on everything. So it's slightly different than what you had, but not by enough that it would matter. So I'm going to take that pose, and then over here, this pose, I'm going to go one more, add key, delete, and move. So these are the two poses you need to go back and forth between. I would just delete these others, and then set this as the very first frame, and then this at however fast you want the thing to move. By the way, this is 1 second right here. It was kind of slow, and if I just play these two poses, it's going to remain really slow. We also have to return to this one, so I'm going to move to half a second right here, copy this, and paste it at the end so it will cycle. So now we start and end at the same spot, but it's one of the two poses that we need. So left, right, left, right, left, right. So more like that. Okay? Hopefully that helps you, Noah. Send me a message if it doesn't, and I can always demonstrate something else. Let's do the jump up. Okay, again, speed is going to be an issue just because it's taken a long time to do it. Let's take a look at Midair. That one will probably work fine. Okay, and then down. Okay, that's going to be really, really weird, but okay. Also, your arms are not really doing a whole lot. They are probably going to be the most visible portion of the character as they run around. And when I demonstrated it, I had my arms indicating where we had come from, which is actually an animation principle of overlap. So let's just really quick look at mine. Go back to prefabs. Which one was mine? This was the original one I made. So just really quick, for jump up, I have the arms down because that's the direction we came from. So if you think about them like flapping loose, then I'm pointing them down to sort of give an indication that that's where the past is, right, where the ground is. Then in midair, they catch up and sort of are hanging in limbo, sort of the legs. And then as we're heading down, they're up because that's where the past is. The past is in midair. And so they act kind of like a tail or like flapping cloth or something. Now, arms aren't just like wobbly noodles that are flapping loose or anything, but you can do stuff like that to kind of give an indication of motion a bit better. And it is an animation principle. So consider doing that for the arms of your character as well, just because it would be a really good detail. Let's go back to yours. So, down. We do have it with this arm, but then in midair, it was already doing that, so it's not like they're transitioning. They're not really moving at all. So he's going to hold his arm stiff, and it's probably not going to be very satisfying, right? So what you could do for your midair is have this arm, instead of being held by the side, have it like a little bit out, and then for the down, have this one progress to up like the other one. And I know this looks weird, like I'm breaking his arm, but usually the transition will happen so fast that you won't see it. At least that way it'll sort of like follow the motion a bit. Okay? All right, and what was up like? I want to see the jump one more time. Okay. So you don't want to cycle this position because that's the starting position, right? You want to cycle this position over here, this I am in the air position. Think about it. If you jumped off the ground, you jump and then you return back to the ground all before you've gone midair and come back down? Not really. Okay, that's what these three are for. They're all different parts of the midair travel. The midair is when we've finished traveling upward and we're just hanging out up there. Okay, so we don't want to return to our feet on the ground like this. We just want to stay here. Okay. It looks like you've pasted maybe your idle pose into the start of each of these clips, which is something I recommended, which is good because you got all the correct attributes to animate, but then you left the pose alone, which is bad, right? We don't want the feet planted on the ground in midair. We want it to have changed, right? So all you got to do, once you've made these changes, come one frame in and then right click add key. This should be your first frame because it's got all of those changes and it's got all of these channels. So if I just delete that, slide this to frame 0. Okay, we're going to start there. Now this is your other side of that motion right over here. So I'm going to go one frame less, add key. So these should be your whole animation, these two. I'm going to delete all of that and then decide how fast I want this character to do this motion, right? Probably fairly quickly, so like half a second, but then it's got to start and end at the same pose. So I want to grab this, copy. I'm going to move this to a quarter of a second, and on a half of a second, paste. And now this is the cycle. Okay? So that would work out really nicely. But what you had before keeps transitioning back to like standing on the ground still, which is not going to work properly. Okay? All right, hopefully that helps. Let's do the next one. We've got Paul's. So Paul's got his controller, got his animations, and got his prefab. Very good. Where'd the prefab go? It was in this folder, wasn't it? I thought it came in. Let me see. Okay, it's not going to give me any hints now. Oh, I see. He had a folder that he named himself, and just it wasn't exactly the same as mine. So he's got prefab instead of prefabs. So, little minor thing there. All I would do to clean this up is just drag this into this folder and then just delete that one. Like, pretty easy fix, really. But that's why I was confused. Okay, so we've got Greg. Nobody did Greg yet. Idle. Cool. And you know what? This character is kind of a frenetic character, so this kind of works for them. The feet are sliding around a little bit more than my comfort would allow for, but in general, I think this is going to work for an idle. Could be a little distracting, but probably going to be all right. Let's try the run. Okay, that is miming running, which is kind of cute and clever, but our character is going to actually run, right? Wait, what happened with the arms there? Did you guys see that? The skin's detached for a second. Huh. I think it was just an error, just a visual error. So yeah, this is miming running. So it's gonna look pretty funny. The big difference I would say between this and someone who's actually running is how much the body actually moves up and down. So you've got the root of the whole character is the coat. I'd recommend adding a little bit of actual full body motion, right? Or if bone 1, which represents the pelvis, is supposed to be the one, then do it here. A little bit of full body motion. You also kind of have to take the feet off the ground. So right now it's just kind of going tippy tap with his toes. But in a full actual run position, we wouldn't have feet planted on the ground the whole time. You actually get midair in a run. So if I look at like this right here, there's a moment where all your feet are off the ground, right? Or at least pretty high off the ground. And so we need that to happen. And since he's just kind of exchanging, it looks like a dance or a mime or like a moonwalk or something. Whereas you got to actually get like that all the way off the ground and up pretty significantly in order to feel like he's running for real. Okay. cute though. Let's do jump up. Holy, whoa, away he goes. Okay, this is the other extreme. So in the one extreme, we've got a motion that didn't move very much. In this extreme, we've got a motion that moves way, way, way past where our character actually is. So what you got to understand is that this object, player animation, does not represent where the character is. It represents what the character looks like. This object represents where the character is. Okay? And that means that we've got this capsule collider and physics that move it around. So what your character just did is exit its own body and fly over here, where that's not going to work in playback with a controller. So what you can do, you can have this exact same animation, but you got to stay put, right? Did it immediately move away? Let me see. What did idle look like? Okay, I just want to make sure that he's centered on the correct spot. It's a little weird because your player animation object is like moved way over to his shoulder, and I thought maybe there was something wrong, but I guess not. So let's do jump up. All right, so I'm going to turn on the recording just so I can change things. When he starts to move away, instead of moving him away, get that bone one, because I think that's the one that you're using to move him, and just leave it in the position it started. So it starts there, so leave it here. So he'll kind of do the same motion without ever actually traveling. Like that. So it would be like this. Okay? That right there would work a lot better for our animation purposes. It's still maybe a little bit slow, a little bit crazy, but it's going to stay put inside the character at least. Then if we do midair, okay, yeah, same thing. All of that has to take place where the character began. So it has to take place over here. And then for jumping down, same thing. All of that's got to take place where the character began, so that on this last frame, the character is now standing where the character is standing in the idle pose. So I could kind of cheat this a little bit by copying, and then with this down, this is also, you're kind of combining landing and down together. So maybe separate this last little bit, but I can paste right here at this point. Okay, that's where we got to end up. So now I'll take the bone one and move it so that it's in this position. So it looks like we want to be like right here. And then fix all the others. Okay? So, Paul, hopefully that makes sense to you. It's a lot of stuff that's going to need cleaning up, but you'll see when you hook up the character controller that it's not going to play back correctly until you do that. Okay? All right. Let's see. We're moving on down the line. Let me minimize that. I've got stuff in my way over here. We've got Andrew. Okay. We've got all the animations, the controller, and the prefab. Let's import. There we go. Is this it? Something. Uh-oh. Something looks like it might have gone wrong here. It looks like we're inside the player anim prefab, but then you've got this other prefab that it's marked as missing or overriding or something. What is it saying here? Let me check. Console. Overriding existed asset with new unique ID. This may break links. And it turned red also to indicate something. I don't know what it's trying to indicate to me. I think it's trying to say something like, I was a prefab once, but am no longer. If I right click and unpack that, I think it resolves that. And your animation should still play. Let me just check real quick and go back to the project. I think you did this in the opposite order that I intended, Andrew. You've got the animation object as the prefab, and then you've got the character inside of that. It's supposed to be the other way around. This one's supposed to be the prefab. that's supposed to be inside of it. Nevertheless, this should play so long as we've got the same. Okay, we don't. I wanted to check to see if we had the same objects and scripts in the right place. We don't right now. So let me show you May real quick. Her player object has a collider, a rigid body, and a script, right? But it has no reference to an animator or anything like that. Then inside of it, we have the animator and all the animatable bits. That's the proper order, right? This thing controls it all. This thing shows all the animations. So the way you've got it set up, it's definitely not going to properly work. On this one, we have the animator, which shouldn't be there. It should be on this one. And then we don't have any physics or controller. Then here, we've got a sprite skin for the bones, sprite render, but there's no physics here either. So the character is not going to be able to operate. Let's take a look at the animations though. Idle. Okay, it's real subtle, but it works. Yep. Let's try a run. Okay, the only problem is that the arms and legs are twinning each other. And what that means is they're doing the same thing on the same side. So the leg over here is doing the same thing as the arm over here, and it really should be the opposite. Other than that, it's kind of a nice bouncy movement, but you do need to reverse those. Let's take a look at jump up. Okay. A little bit slow, but I think it works. Once we get to this pose at the end, I'm noticing we don't have keys on everything. It's kind of a bad idea to not have keys on everything. You almost always want to. So I'm going to go one frame further, right click, add key, then delete this, because it took all the positions from the existing things that you'd animated and all of the positions that were never changed. So now we've got this. I'm also going to copy and paste this at about 5. So now what it does is rapidly get here and then just hold, which is better for our blend tree examples. If you want it to happen a bit slower, we could move this to 10, but then I think that you might end up seeing, well, actually that looks fine. So we could head it in 10. Let's do midair. Okay, just remember to cycle things. So the motion's not too bad. We've got closed arms, wide arms, but we never return back to this first pose, and we need to cycle it. So just copy this, paste it on down the line however far. You've done half a second, so we could do a whole second. And now we've got this, and that works properly. Jump down. I think you're missing one. So we've got idle. Oh, fall. Okay, you just named it different. Same thing, you got to cycle this because arms up and then nothing, right? So you got to take that first pose and paste it at the end. If you want it to get to this point and then stick there, make another animation clip, which is just this pose to transition to. Okay, so this would be more of a transition where we go up, hold those arms, and then we cycle it, and then we do something else when we land. It'll kind of make more sense when you build your animator. You'll see how things do or don't transition. All right, thank you, Andrew. If you have any questions, let me know. And then finally, Isaac. All the animations, import, prefabs, great. And we got one more Greg. Okay, so the controller is not hooked up to the animator component yet, so we need to do that. I'm going to go into the folder, type in your name, and then these are clips. Okay, you might not have a controller because we got clip, 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 but no controller. And if I try to drag in the Unity package, it's not going to tell me. So it's not going to be in here. Where is it? Nope, that's Gunter's. Let me do this instead then. I'm going to filter by animation controller. Is there no filter for animation controllers? There's a filter for clips. Huh. Is that for real? I want to make sure this is called, oh, maybe it's just called controller. No, compute shader. I can't believe it. How come there's no? Huh. By label? My favorite? I don't know. Maybe I can type it in. Controller. Well, that sucks. Because I do need to search for all the animation controllers. We can do this. So I'm going to hit this and hit the target to browse all the existing animation controllers and look for yours. Ah, okay, use your last name. So here it is. But where is it located is what I want to know. So if I do that, if I click it, it shows me it's in the same folder. I just couldn't see it. I was just blind. All right, so now it's attached. So now we should be able to play back the animations. There we go. Idle works nicely. That's very similar to mine with the little ear twitch, but I appreciate it. Cool. And let's take a look at run. Okay. So yeah, similar to others, you've got the proper twinning of the arms and legs. It's nice and simple. I recommend a little bit of shoulder movement, but on these characters, it's not really necessary. Let's try jump up. Okay. And then just like I've been recommending to others, maybe hold this last position for the rest of 1 second, just so that it transitions right. Then we've got midair. That's great. That's going to work just fine. And then down. Okay. And it looks like, yep, arms going behind the head. Good. And then do we have a landing? No landing. Okay. Nobody did a landing except for inside the clip. So we'll see how everyone's transitions. You may find that you want to add one after you have the logic in place. Cool. I don't see any problems there. I think that's all going to work out just great. All right, you guys. That was the last one. Any final questions or comments by anybody?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good work. Look forward to seeing what you turn out this week. The video's already up. It's a short one, like I said, but the animator controllers can be a little bit confusing sometimes. So I included a link to the documentation on Unity's site as well. It's really not that complicated once you get down to it, but it can be a little bit confusing why things don't work the way you want, because there's a lot of different areas to click on and edit. So if you get most of it done by Friday, I'm happy to look at it with you. If not, good luck. You're on your own. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, you guys. Have a good day.